And welcome, Mr. Adam Brichto. I've been looking forward to speaking to you. I got the pronunciation right as well, which made me think of Bricktop when you sent it through.
I have been called Bricktop before. That is, yeah, great film, incidentally.
One of the best films of all time and very
Yeah,
underrated. Um, and probably quote it more often than I should do, especially around my 10-year-old daughter.
yeah. There is a Cockney cafe that I used to frequent where I regularly, when I went in, they went, "Oh, yeah, how you doing, Bricktop?" So I'm quite used to it. So if you want to call me Bricktop, feel free.
I don't know. I think you'd scare me with that one. Yeah, it's not somebody that I'd like to meet on a podcast or a dark night, to be fair. So yeah, first and foremost, thank you very much for agreeing to join me and speak to me and my dulcet tones for however long we decide to do. I came across your content. What was the first? It was the one in Blackpool when you were going around in the Union Jack suit, and I suppose I get drawn to videos like that because you're not the only one. Like a moth to flame, and it doesn't necessarily matter whether you are left leaning or right leaning or whatever party you represent. I kind of get drawn to them because I'm interested in Joe Public's or the view of Joe Public or what it is on the street ultimately. And then obviously got into your back catalogue and started reading, and then that was it. Yeah, I've got to have him on. So for those that don't know who you are and what you do, introduce yourself, please.
Uh, this is a hard question. So I've now fallen into the realm where the main thing that I do is create content which is left leaning, talking to people in the street and informing in hopefully a quite entertaining, engaging way about some of the fucked up shit that is happening in the world. Um,
And more than not at the current moment in time.
yeah, so I mean that is the one consolation of living in a really screwed up world is that people like me are quite busy. So, I mean, if
Always.
it was all perfect, I wouldn't have a job, but I would prefer it to be the other way around. And when I say things being screwed up, it's just the wool being pulled over our eyes by people in power,
Mm.
and everyday people getting sucked into their propaganda. So I feel like we have to address it with the propaganda that is actually honest.
Yeah,
um,
do you not think? And this is so it's that double-edged sword, and I'm sure you're intelligent enough to recognize it. That at what point do you fear feeding into the propaganda machine and it elevating to the point where if you do something satirical, which a lot of your stuff is, and people that are of medium to a slightly higher intelligence will understand that.
yeah.
Whereas what will tend to happen is, right, well, we'll go back with something bigger, and it's sort of that escalating process. Is that some sort of fear for you?
So you actually said you watched a Blackpool video. So interestingly
Yes.
enough, I've done two. So I went first last summer, and I was probably a little bit unfair to the people I spoke to because I posed as a reform supporter in my Union Jack suit. And I didn't let them know that even by the end of the video that I wasn't.
Right.
Um, and the video did very well, but a lot of people did say you just ripped the piss out of them, and I did feel a little bit uncomfortable about it because and the point I was making was, what do you actually know about the reforms policies? And everyone said, oh yeah, I mean, the the premise was, I'm a reform supporter and I'm annoyed that the only thing that people know about reform is our policy about hating on immigrants. But there's so much more to us than that. And people went, yeah, 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 there is. And then I asked them, what other reform policies did you like? And even members of the Reform Party who I spoke to didn't know any other policies. It was
Mm.
literally, I mean, it was just that one thing. And then when I shared all of these things relating to getting rid of the NHS, sort of like cutting spending on infrastructure by 150 billion pounds. I mean, saying things like net zero doesn't exist. Mostly they were pretty shocked, and but I was making fun because a
Yeah,
lot of people still were saying, actually, well, I still like these concepts. So I thought, you know what, that in some ways that was very effective because it did get a message across, and people maybe watching it would have gone, okay, I don't want to look that stupid anymore, and I want to do my own research. But if I'm honest, I don't think it's the best way to get in and change people's minds. So I had this idea for a while, and this was my latest video that I did do in conjunction with the Canary, which was to go back and actually have proper conversations.
mm.
Uh, the interesting thing is I thought that I was actually quite nervous because I thought, you know what, that video was seen a few million times, and I thought people would recognize me in Blackpool.
Especially
However,
with the suit, especially with the suit on.
especially with the suit, not one person that I spoke to in Blackpool said, "Oh, I've seen your video."
Right.
So that is very surprising. That says that the algorithm is quite a strong presence in, well, the algorithm knows what it's doing in terms of just sort of like in London, people will recognize me.
Mm.
So it was a surprise that actually, but I actually then went in and while wearing the Union Jack suit, had some real genuine conversation about, okay, this time talking about how Nigel Farage um, basically voted against the Employment Rights Bill. And in effect, that meant that he was voting for 0-hour contracts, voting for fire and rehire, basically voting for things that really screw up working class people. And a few people came round and changed their mind and were like, oh, wait a minute, I don't think I like him as much as I used to. So that is where I think it is more interesting. But I think you need to play both hands, a bit
Yeah.
of satire, because that gets engagement as well as those conversations that draw people in, and actually can persuade people to look at things a little bit differently with more of a, I guess, a balanced view.
I think that's especially with social media nowadays and the internet, and especially even, mainstream media, a lot of stuff is in an echo chamber. I like when GB News started, I thought, oh, this looks like it's going to be objective, it's going to be matter of fact, and then it's just turned into a reform echo chamber. And I don't want that. Like even this is coming from somebody who's pretty much centralist, which I think I'd probably say between 80 to 85% of people across the country are pretty much centralists, and they don't lean too far left or too far right. And it's the media that portrays this far right, far left battle that goes on, and everybody else kind of sits in between and just sort of teeters here or there.
Either you were quite right wing, I'll be honest.
No, no. You know what? On some things, yes, but
Yeah.
then on other things, no. So, for instance, I'm a massive advocate for what Portugal did with decriminalisation of illicit substances.
Right.
100%, because
Yeah.
it fucking works. Like it's not, and this is the thing. It's not like, oh, pie in the sky idea. Why don't we do this? No, there's actual factual fucking evidence that dates back years and shows that it works. So why wouldn't you do it? It's logical. It makes sense. So that being sort of far left wing, and I am very much, I look at things logically, and I look at things, does that make sense? Is it can it be implemented? For
Yeah.
instance, you look at
On that though, I wouldn't say that that was far left wing. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? But I can see why you're saying that. But it actually it's just the fact that it's being projected as one of those ideas from the loony left, and
I get that,
you
yeah.
and so going out again like a week or two ago with the Canary again into Gorton and Denton, where people were being fed again this propaganda that Labour want to allow people to buy heroin off the shelf,
Oh,
and and
that,
and it,
he
and people on the street were like, oh, and and it's unfortunate because the way the news works, it's very, very persuasive. It's very persuasive. It's like, because people don't have time. Most people don't have time to spend their time researching stuff. So they're getting it from online, and they're getting it from their echo chamber. And you know what, you watch something first off, and you hear someone that you've got some respect for saying, what a loony idea, they're going to be able to, they're going to make heroin legal so you can buy it in a supermarket. And it's like, oh, that is all, of course. I mean, if you're not going to do your research, that's going to be wild.
Yeah,
And obviously, and you,
it was was it Keir Starmer that said that you're going to make the date rape drug GHB legal or something, and I'm like, right, show me one where anybody said that. Show me two where this is sort of put down on paper. What you and this sort of sensationalization of these stupid policies, you know, and it goes both ways. So you talk about the drug policy like that, but then you can talk about the immigrant. Everybody's going to go into these camps, and it's the Holocaust all over again. Well, just calm the fuck down. Nobody said that. Like, whatever your belief is, let's look at facts rather than this sensationalization of these policies or opinions. But what I was saying, like Jeremy Corbyn, when Jeremy Corbyn first came into politics, I would love to live in Jeremy Corbyn's world. That the world that he has in his head is a utopia.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you. I mean, I actually also worked making content in both 2017 and 2019, and I had high hopes for Mr. Corbyn, and I think he's a decent guy. I mean, there's no denying he's a decent guy, but I do feel like he threw the left under a bus, because everyone had such high hopes for him. But my feeling is that, and this is quite hard to say, he didn't really want to win.
No, it doesn't look. But then again, you know, it doesn't look like a power-hungry sort of person that wants to rule the world, so to speak.
But that's the problem, isn't it? It's like, okay, everyone he was the hope for people that basically were like, at a time where the Conservative Party would just be going further and further and further to the right, and coming up with much more and more, in my opinion, extreme views. Corbyn was like, okay, this is the great hope. And I think he enjoyed that people shouting, "Ooh, Jeremy Corbyn." But ultimately, when it came down to it, politics is really hard, and you have to take all the people with you. And he didn't do what Zach Polanski is doing now, which is going out to places like I go to. And I've been with Zach Polanski to some of the places that I've been to. I've been with him to Clacton to talk to people on the ground and have those conversations about what Nigel Farage stands for. Corbyn was afraid to do that. He didn't want to put in those hard yards, and he didn't want to talk about he, as you say, he lived in an ideal world that wasn't, where there was no reality.
It's not it was never ever going to be brought into, like, scrapping Trident. Like, that was one of his dreams. I think, if everybody, all the public would probably agree, what a good idea. In reality, is it ever going to happen? No, not in a million years. It's just not going to happen. So what you need to do at that point is you need to just drop that, because it's an impossibility. Drop it.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, the reality is you've got to, everything's open to having a conversation. And also, when you're not in power, you don't necessarily have the best formed policies, but you have an idea, an understanding is, this is where we want to head to. And obviously, with the Green Party policy relating to legalizing drugs, the concept is, it's not working at the moment, and we need to make it better. It's not like saying, you know what, we've got everything in place to know that we're gonna do exactly this, and this when we get into power tomorrow. It's saying, okay, we're gonna start the hard work. And I think Corbyn he liked appealing to his followers who were who just believed in his ideals. But unfortunately, yeah, Corbyn couldn't compromise. He couldn't.
No.
I mean, and not. I mean, things like not standing up for the national anthem, and they are. I mean, I can understand why he wouldn't want to do that, but it's not. It's not gonna win you votes.
No, it's not gonna do anything good for you in the public eye whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I suppose I do understand that within politics, obviously, it's a difficult thing. You've got to wear the famous anecdote about Winston Churchill and his hats, and he used to have different hats for different personas, and I think that to be a successful politician, you've got to have that within your arsenal. You've got to know, whether you can be Jack the Lad with somebody, or whether you have to be yes sir, thank you sir, and whether you have to, you say the quiet thing out loud, or whether you say the out loud thing quietly. And the problem is, and like, let's touch on Zach Polanski, because I
Yeah. Well, let's ask you the question. What do you
go
think
on.
of him? What do you think of him?
You know what? When he first came on the scene, and I've spoke with Afan Berkey, who's the chairman of the Green Party in where I live, and I can get on board with the Green Party on quite a lot of things. Not everything, but quite a lot of things. The problem is with Zach Polanski, he hasn't he showed me one thing that has me worried that he's the same as every other leader within the political sphere. And it was when he was asked the question about proportional representation, which I'm a big advocate of. I think proportional representation, not necessarily in the way that it's done in New Zealand as it stands, but I think proportional representation on a local level and international level need to be two separate entities. But somebody asked him, would you block proportional representation if it meant Nigel Farage got in power? And he didn't hesitate and said yes. Now, the thing for me there is, if that's one of your big five things, and you've quickly reneged on it to stop somebody that you don't like getting in power, regardless of whether you agree with him or not, that for me is just, I'd like to have a conversation with him about it, because I understand it.
Yeah. I mean, look. I mean, I've got to say, of all the things that would worry you, I mean, that for me is it's not like it doesn't sound that worrying. I think that there's something quite refreshing about that honesty, isn't there? But what's interesting also
Yes.
what's interesting about the Green Party is that you even if Zach Polanski, I'll say that again, you can cut it out so it doesn't sound like I can't say his name. So even if Zach Polanski turned out to be an absolute nutcase, he hasn't got the power within the Green Party, because the Green Party is democratic. So that's what also makes it very, very exciting. So I don't think there is, and I think actually when it comes down to it, I mean, I can understand that view. I mean, I mean, Farage is, I mean, some of the stuff that he's coming out with, it is petrifying. He is like a mini Trump, and Trump in a weird way is just following the same ideology and philosophy that Hitler did in Germany. I mean, that's the actual reality. So it's like, well, you know what? There's an honesty there, which I think when it comes down to it, I mean, it maybe he'll say maybe those principles will change. But I can understand when you're so afraid of something that you see as evil. And I'll be honest, I see Nigel Farage as evil. I do see him as someone that wants to stir division and create problems and doesn't have anyone's best interests at heart apart from his own and his rich mates. So,
but to be fair, like, just on that, I don't think he's that dangerous. I think he's a lot of bluster. But with the division, a lot has been attributed to Nigel Farage in terms
can I
of
just
this
say that?
division.
Can I just say something? Sorry to interrupt. People said that about Trump.
No, I always knew Trump's a maniacal. Like, he doesn't get to where he's got without being ruthless.
But people all said that. They all said that about Trump. Oh, he doesn't worry me that much. He's like, it's all. I don't. I am very disturbed about the idea of Nigel Farage getting into power. I've no idea what he'll do. He'll do anything to hold the reins, and he will sell. He'll sell anything for the price of a pint.
I agree with you on that point, that I am very trepidatious about him gaining power, and not for the fact of him gaining power. but it's who comes after him and who he paves the way for. That's the thing that concerns me. It's not him. I think to be honest, I'll either look back on this quote in a few years'
Yeah.
time and say, "Oh shit," or I'll look back on it and say, "I got it bang on." I think he'll be as effective as Barack Obama. I think he'll go in, do his term, and literally achieve fuck all. That's what I think will happen. But the problem is who comes after him and who paves the way for. If he's upsetting the apple cart in terms of this two-party system that's been in for 500-600 years, and he's upset the apple cart, then all bets are off as who takes the
Well,
place after him.
I'm just surprised by the comparison of Nigel Farage with Barack Obama.
Just in terms of the fact that Barack Obama pretty much did nothing when he came into office and didn't really achieve much, didn't make any waves or ripples. Very charismatic man, but he didn't really.
I'm not an expert in American politics. I'm not an expert in American. But as far as I'm aware, it was quite tricky, wasn't it? Because you need to have both the House and the Senate, things getting done. It's a hard job. But he certainly
100%.
But certainly America had a good standing in the world when he was in power, and they had a president that could actually speak and make sense. And you weren't petrified was going to basically. Well, actually, I mean, when it comes down to it, he did do some bad stuff around the world, but you didn't think he was just going to press the nuclear bomb at any moment just because he thought, actually, I've got the power, I can do it.
Or if Joe Biden press it because he thought it was a button for his Medicare.
Maybe there's that too. Yeah.
But the problem is for me with this, and this is where populism comes in. It's so divisive, and we were talking about division, and a lot's been attributed to Nigel Farage. But you've got to kind of have two sides to one coin to be divisive. And I think, well, I think it all started back with David Cameron. As soon as David Cameron called for the referendum on Brexit, like, he knew that if this didn't go the way that he wanted, he was out of there. You're not telling me that he made the decision the day after the referendum. He knew way, 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 way before that. And I can respect him in a sense, because it's like, I'm not the man to do this job, which I can get on board with, but at the same time, don't fucking go into the position of Prime Minister if you can't enact the will of the people. But then you go into it was all around Brexit where this populism started, and it's social media has not helped it.
He lost the gamble, and in it, he basically, but Britain came out worse than he did, because guess what? A few years later, he's back with a senior role in government. I mean, how insane is that? So no, I don't have any sympathy for him whatsoever.
There's a few people that have done that. And I'll get back onto the point, but like the one thing that really frustrates me, and I'd love to meet him face to face and have the conversation with him, but then again, it's like Demon Headmaster. He'd probably hypnotize me and send me off to some camp somewhere. But Tony Blair, he's like a blue bottle around shit all the time. Will you just fuck off out of British politics? You are a war criminal. You thank your lucky stars that you're not in prison, and just fuck off into the sunset with your 70 million pounds that you made whilst you were in office, and do one. Don't get involved anymore. Like, when people, what is he? Trump likes him, doesn't he? He put him as a special peace envoy to Israel or something.
It's this ultimate thing, isn't it? I mean, power corrupts. That is the problem. So, and Tony Blair did do some good stuff when he was in power. He did a lot of people did actually have better lives after he was in power than before. But ultimately, I mean, what he did with Iraq, basically what he was, like a little lapdog to America, and what he's doing now. I mean, this is all, I think there is a real problem. I mean, and I wouldn't be able to say hand on heart, I know I've got decent values now, but I know that there must be something going on where all these people go in mostly with decent values, and they come out and they're like, okay, you have to do it this way. You have to do it this way. You have to, I've been watching Industry at the moment, by the way. Have you watched any of that?
I haven't, no.
a great TV show. It gives you
I'll have to look.
it gives you a good understanding of how the system works, and how people there's pressure put on you to be corrupt because you can get away with it.
Mm.
And I think that's where the Labour Party are at right now. It's where the Tory Party are at right now.
I think
It's
that's
and it's where the
every
reform
politician.
and it's where the Reform Party are right now. And I genuinely do not think the Green Party are there. I genuinely
No,
see them as very, very different, as a breath of fresh air. And they because I think they're sensible adults, but who actually care, that that want to change things. I mean,
mm.
it's that simple. It's not. Um, so for me, it's like, uh, it's interesting. You said earlier you didn't like what you had to say about proportional representation. I mean, sure, you're not going to like everything that the guy says, but
It wasn't
ultimately,
necessarily just to clarify the point. It wasn't necessarily about the
yeah, I got that.
proportional representation. It's about the fact that he's gone. He's kind of reneged on his one of his biggest morals, one of his biggest plus points. Very, very quickly. It wasn't like
Just
it would be a
because,
difficult decision. That it would be like no, not in. And it's like, hang on a minute,
but
just
that's the
if he'd
compromise,
take
isn't it? That's the
yeah,
compromise because he knows how much shit the country will be in if Nigel Farage is in power. So it's kind of like, so these are all little compromises people are weighing up the whole time. So you might not agree with that compromise. I get it, but it's not a reason to say out with the Green Party.
hell no, no, and it's like I said, it's just, and this has been the difficulty. So I've invited God knows how many different MPs. I've spoken to Reform councillors. I've spoken to Green Party MPs and members. Labour, I had 3 agree to come onto the podcast, and all 3 have gone completely ghosted when it came push came to shove, and it could have been something to do with the content that I posted when Starmer went on his digital ID rampage. Of like, I think I might have accidentally posted Keir Starmer as Comrade Starmer at some point. Maybe it might have been like a mural on the end of a house with him looking like Stalin. Can't quite remember, to be honest. If
Yeah,
you go back in my feed, it might be there, but that might do it.
yeah,
But and this is so when and we go back to this division and this sensationalization, and you mentioned in terms of what Hitler did, and you can see the similarities. I see the similarities not necessarily with Hitler, but with Germany pre-war World War II. So inflation, super. I mean, it was ridiculous in Germany after World War One. There's the famous pictures of children playing with like stacks of banknotes as building blocks and stuff. We had the highest inflation in the G7, and it's like I can draw them similarities and the big feeling of nationalism that's creeping up. And I use that word nationalism because anybody that's proud of the country at the minute is automatically being branded a fascist, racist, Nazi, whatever it may be. And that is not the case. And categorically, it really frustrates me. And I think it's very, very lazy language when you see it on TV shows in the morning. Okay, it might have been Jeremy Vine. Which one does he? I don't watch it, but I saw the clip. And somebody quite openly, brazenly saying he's a Nazi, like on daytime television. Now, you imagine somebody telling you 20 years ago that was going to happen. Both of us, I'm pretty certain, would have gone, fuck off. Not a chance. That's not happening. And it's just commonplace now. And the problem with it is using language like that. And for instance, you've already mentioned the phrase loony lefties and all this sort of stuff. Using that language automatically shuts down the discussion and the conversation to be had that needs to be had, which is very, very dangerous, because what that happens then is it enforces that echo chamber, because they can then only speak to people that have the same ideology as them. And then it becomes a bit more radicalized. on both sides of the coin.
But that's the reality we live with right now, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
and
there's not.
I don't know how you break it, if you can.
Well, I I'm going to say this, aren't I? It means going out and having conversations with people on the street, which is and it yeah, people getting out and about having. I mean, you're doing it. I'm doing it. Zach Polanski's doing it. A hell of a lot of Green Party people. I mean, they were all doing it in Denton and Gorton a couple of weeks ago. So it's yeah, it's very, very hard though. I mean, the odds are stacked against us now, probably more than ever, in terms of the way that the media works. So and social media, it was very exciting at the very beginning because it was like, okay, this is going to be the most democratic media because people will make it themselves. But like everything, it gets into the hands of the most powerful, richest people who generally tend to want to keep the status quo. And so they are as right as it gets, if we're talking about right and left wing. And it makes it just so much harder. But that's why you have, I do genuinely think that if you are left wing and left wing party, you have to work 4 or 5 times as hard to get your message across. But it's like, okay, well, we have to do it. We have to do it because there's no other option. And I think that at the moment, I mean, I think that over the course of, you look at the history of the UK, in the last, I don't know, since the war, since the power went from the left to right, sort of like in the 70s, the left haven't done it very well. They have not communicated very well. And obviously Tony Blair did, but he did it kind of in, like you're kind of saying, almost with sort of like with someone else's clothes. It wasn't like,
Yeah, he was a wolf in sheep's clothing. There's no two ways about it. And then the person that came after him was a bumbling buffoon that didn't really. He seemed to. Everybody holds him in such high regard, but I mean, Gordon Brown. I can't think of one good thing he did. To be honest, I've looked at everything that he did when he took power, and I can't think of one goal. I'd have done that. Yeah, that's the right decision. It was literally fucking farce after farce after farce.
yeah. I mean, I don't know what he did either, but I mean, I don't study politics in that much detail. You probably study it more than I do. So, but I look back at Gordon Brown and he just looked like this is a job that he really wanted, but he wasn't the right person, was he? He wasn't a leader. So,
No, and
and I'm
I
sure,
don't think we've
and
had one.
yeah, but I'm sure he is. I mean, I respect him now. I see that he is doing stuff relating. I work quite a lot with people that are in the gambling field, basically looking at gambling harm and campaigners who are, lots of them, ex-gambling addicts who are seeing exactly, again, another example of people with extreme wealth taking advantage of the very poorest people in society. And Gordon Brown was one of the people actually recently that said we need to tax these bloody behemoth gambling companies more. So I respect him for that. But I don't know what else. I don't know much else about what he's done for the world. I'll be honest.
No.
A lot of people. So yeah.
So I mean, we talk about left wing and right wing, and I think it's a thing that really frustrates me. For 2 reasons. One, it almost reinforces that tribalism element of politics, which I think if there's obviously there's got to be opposition to whatever policies or whatever the speaker says within the house. There's got to be an opposition to get sort of both sides of the coin and the full story. I get that, but the tribalism that sort of comes out when, so for instance, like you look at Kemi Badenoch now. She's been actually saying some really common sense stuff. She's actually been coming out with things. I mean, I feel really sorry for her, because there's no way in hell that Conservatives are going to get in power for the foreseeable future. She's fighting a losing battle, but she's actually making the right noises and the right sounds. Now, the problem is for me,
what noises are they? I mean,
there was one. It was recently. It was the whole Peter Mandelson thing, and obviously because she gets to sort of challenge Starmer in the House, she basically challenged him on. She asked him outright, did you know, before you appointed him to the position of US ambassador, did you know with the security report that this was the case? And he tried to fob her off, and she pushed him on the answer, and he ended up admitting, yeah, I did know. Now, the problem is anybody there, regardless of whether you're left, right, up, down, back to front, turn around, goes, your position is now untenable. Anybody with half a brain looks at that and says, you can't stay in office when you've made that big of a blunder, where there's potentially, potentially a paedophile sat next to you. Now, the problem, and you let him there. Now, the problem is with that is because of the left and right thing, is you'll have, or the opposition and non-opposition and party politics, you'll have people within the Labour Party that will defend somebody like that just because it was the opposition that said it. That's the problem that I see with left and right.
That's the problem that's existed ever since Parliament was created back in, when was it, the 1600s?
1600s, yeah. 1655, I think.
Yeah, so you know your stuff. So I'm curious. So you're doing this podcast,
yes,
for just to have conversations, but you've got your own political agenda, ambitions, or
not really. So the reason why it came about, and I've said this on the podcast before, I did two courses of psychedelic therapy, which is why the mushrooms are on the logo at the back.
You're giving me Joe Rogan vibes right now.
Yeah, I'm no martial artist, put it that way. So I did 2 courses of that, and the second course that I did was in and around the time that Putin was started bombing Ukraine. And I was getting so worked up with the bullshit that was flying around, and there was no actual facts coming from any side whatsoever. It was all propaganda from the Russian element. It was all propaganda from the Ukrainian element. It was all propaganda from the US, and it was all propaganda from the UK. Not one of them was. I couldn't find the thread of truth that sometimes there is. So I was getting really frustrated, and that ended up coming up in one of my sessions. And the message that came through was either put up or shut up.
Was this ayahuasca talking to you?
No, it's just psilocybin. Some voice from the ether. And funnily enough, I decided at that point, right, I'm going to shut up. I'm just going to forget about it, get on with my life and carry on. And then what started happening was things started dropping into my path that were telling me, no, you weren't meant to shut up. I need you to sort of start talking about this stuff. And I ended up going to one of my friends that runs a podcast workshop in Peterborough, which is like 4 or 5 hours away from me. I went down, and that was it. It was like, right, well, this is the route, and this is the avenue that I need to go down. And I think the whole premise of it is to speak openly about stuff, whether you agree with it, whether you not agree with it. You know, like we spoke just before we started recording about Cliff Grant, who was the last guest on the podcast. He's not going to stop me eating meat. I enjoy eating meat. I think I do agree with him on the meat industry and how abhorrent it is. And I think it's really bad that we've kind of lost touch with our food chain. But we can have a civil, nice conversation about it where we can both walk away at the end. No one's changed anybody's opinion, but we understand a little bit more about anybody else.
You feel if I civilly call you a murderer?
Well, I understand it. I can get on, but I really do understand your ethical view on it.
Because I guess that's where my view. I mean, Cliff has been a vegan for centuries.
Yeah.
I think he was born a vegan. I think he's been a vegan from sort of like from around the time that Parliament was born, because it's just it's in his bones. He's just the most beautiful man that I've ever met. And as I said to you before it existed, he actually, my wife's a vegan. She helped me become a vegan. And Cliff actually stayed with us when he was doing some activism in London over from Belfast a few years ago. So, and I think he's brilliant. He's another example of someone that is brilliant at talking to people on the street. But I think there is an element of, I really struggle with people that on the vegan side of things that say, you know what, you just got to let people do their own thing. And there is that. I just think of, well, animals don't have that choice. That and
It
actually,
is right though.
and where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line when it comes to sort of like what's acceptable and what's not? If murder's acceptable, then that's fine. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because also I say this knowing full well that I was a massive meat eater just a few years ago. I used to laugh at vegetarians, and I've got friends that used to be vegan that have since gone back on it, and are like going, "What the hell? The tables have turned. You're lecturing me." So it's quite an amusing thing, and also I'm not perfect. Sometimes I accidentally buy something from the shop that
That's not vegan.
has a bit of butter in it, and I'm not checking the label as much as I should. But ultimately, I think it's like, well, it's interesting when you get there and have those conversations. And so I think it's really important to have those conversations. But I'm definitely going to judge people. I'm quite judgy.
100%. You've got to judge, but I think you hit the nail on the head, absolutely bang on. But it's only half the story. Is the phrase that you just got to let people do what they want to do. Yes, but you've got to give them the full fucking story first.
Yeah.
Because the problem is the fact that, I do it. So with my daughter, my daughter's 10. I will explain to her where every bit of the food on her plate comes from. Like, so I've told her what veal is. I've told her what beef is. I've told her that it's usually heifers that they have. I've told her what pork is, so on, and what age they get killed at. And she's made the conscious decision. I don't want to eat lamb and I don't want to eat pork.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember
That's
hearing that.
fine. That's absolutely fine. No problem. But the problem is, I know 20 odd, 30 odd other kids in her class won't have a fucking clue where pork comes from, won't have a clue where beef comes from or veal comes from. And that disconnect, that's the bit where the nuance of you've got to let people do what they're going to do. That's where the nuance is, because they don't know where it comes from. They don't have the full picture, so they can't make an actual informed decision. People have a bacon butty on a building site of a Monday. They don't think about where that pig's come from.
But this is the other hard thing is that people, obviously, I mean, as I get older,
I'm more cynical.
well, no, I think I'm not saying I was ever wise, but I definitely was stupid. And I'm becoming wiser and wiser. And as you become wiser, you realize that everything is complicated, and it's quite hard to have a very firm position, because you've got to appreciate where people come from. They have very different lives. They have very different experiences. And I think we're all, in a lot of cases, we're all a bit institutionalized by how we've grown up, who were our parents, what the values that we had. And I think also that the conversation that we're having right now is quite a privileged conversation, because we've got the time and probably the means to be able to have this conversation. A lot of people don't have a free couple of hours on a Thursday evening, because they've got other shit that's going on. They're just trying to fucking survive. So so trying to meet people at their level is really, really hard. So, and obviously that's a big conversation about veganism as well. It's like, well, I'm not going to go into to somewhere thousands of miles away in a different country where I don't know what the culture is, where I don't know actually what the level of conversation is about eating animals there, and tell them what to do, because that's just a bit like that's not right. So it's about trying to have the conversations with people that you think, oh, you could get on board with this, because actually you do have the means to change the way you think, and you do have the means to look at things in a more, I guess, loving, compassionate way. Um,
Yeah,
and I think
I
most people want to be loving and compassionate. So for
I
me,
think
it's that
that's
simple.
it is, and I think that's, going back to the beginning of the question, like that's the whole point of I got sick and tired. I love a podcast. I love Joe Rogan's podcast. I like Chris Williamson. And I think Jay Shetty as well, who was the first person that actually got me into listening to podcasts. The problem is I kept on hearing the same conversations and no real depth and no real honesty. And I see it in politics, and I see it in just it's almost like that surface level, superficial. I hate it. In fact, I
So
love watching
do you want to
football.
change it? Are you trying to change it then?
I'm trying to just shine as much light as I can on the fact that you can have a conversation with somebody that is completely opposite to you. You can finish that conversation after an hour, 2 hours, walk away. Nothing's changed, but you understand a little bit more about the next time you meet somebody that's from that same viewpoint. You can understand a little bit.
Have you researched the concept of the Citizens' Assembly?
Um, I think I've come across it. It rings a bell.
So there's an organization I did some work for recently called Sortition. So they are looking to create more citizens' assemblies. I'm not an expert again, so but this just sounded like common sense. I think they trialed it in Ireland, where on issues that were really complicated, and so I think that something came into a law uh, around the issue of abortion, based on bringing together 100 or so different people from different walks of life with different political views, and they came together and they were like, okay, how do we get this done? And they came up with some compromise. So I'd like to know more about it. I'd like to be an expert
Mm.
on it, but I think that's kind of, it feels to me like this is the kind of stuff that you are engaged in and want to see, because that's everyday people having conversations and basically deciding what should happen. They're the ones in power, and
Yeah,
that's what we
I
need.
think it's
Yeah,
it just needs somebody that doesn't have um personal ambitions at the center of everything. And that's the issue for me is regardless of party politics, regardless of party policies, at the center of it all is the person at the figurehead, whether that be Starmer, Barignac, Farage. You might disagree, but Polanski, I don't even know who the Lib Dem leader is now. That's how irrelevant they've become since 1665. Wow. I don't even I don't have a clue.
I can't remember his
But
name either. It's embarrassing, isn't it? But
wow, that's
I
so
know what he
bad.
looks like. So,
But
but that's I'm just putting that to old age and becoming a little
yeah,
bit forgetful.
they're becoming very irrelevant as well at this moment in time. But it's like for me that populist politics has become all about personal ambition, and party politics and policies and the people have kind of taken a second seat or a back seat to it. It's all about who's going to lead us rather than what's best for the population. Um,
So
and
I'm just so you know, I do disagree on Polanski. So it's kind
yeah,
of like,
I knew
because,
you would.
but it's like, well, obviously it helps when you've got a personal relationship with someone and you
Mhm.
see what they're trying to do and you see how they interact with people around them. So it's always a joy when you're actually
Mm,
out with Zach and seeing him interact with everyone else. There is a real sense of he's the voice box for change, but
mm.
he's not. But I don't. I mean, I don't think he minds having some accolades, but that's not what he's doing it for.
No,
And
I'd love to have a conversation with him. Just like, it's just to get that sort of feel for somebody. I know what you're saying in terms of, you'll always have an opinion of somebody,
And
um,
and as
and
I,
and then it changes.
and as I said to you, that's the interesting thing as well, isn't it? Is that the Green Party has never had ego at the front of it.
Mm.
And right now, I would say that, yeah, maybe there is a little more. Look, what would be perceived to be ego from Zach, because he's putting himself, because he realizes that people vote based on personality. And so,
Mm.
what I really like about what he has done recently, he said, "This is me." I mean, he's actually taking it, I feel like, for the team. He's saying, "This is me. Come and get me." I'm like, I'm Jewish. I'm gay. I'm, I, I can dance. I mean, he's just saying. I mean, he's doing. He's just being himself in all of these positions, and he's not being afraid, which I think is amazing. He's like, when people are having a go at him, he's saying, look who's having a go at me." He's understanding that this is the way it works. People just want to shoot you down. But I haven't seen anything really that, I mean, suggests anything that's negative about him. I think he's probably got, he's even owned sort of like some of the awkward elements of his past. And obviously I mean, that's the biggest thing that people have got on him, is that obviously he, he has got some stories in his back history. But right now, it's like, this is a guy that deeply cares and is a phenomenal communicator. There hasn't been a decent, phenomenal communicator in British politics for I don't know how long. Not someone who's relevant.
Probably since Tony Blair, to be fair. He was the reason why I believe he won is because he was very much, I think,
Yeah,
Barack Obama kind of followed in his footsteps, where he was very charismatic, could speak to people on their level, and he came across as sincere, regardless of,
yeah.
like, in hindsight, probably sadistic and evil at some point, but he came across as sincere at that time.
I mean,
And he
scarily, there are other people that are also great communicators, but I do not respect them in the slightest. And I will say, Farage is not a bad communicator in a
no,
weird, messed up way. And Galloway actually was a disturbingly good communicator as well. But oh my God, what a
I think
frightening, horrible individual.
the thing with George Galloway, and you know what? It's just
You know,
he
what,
all
I don't think we need to go down this route. I don't think
no,
I
it
think
just
I'll feel sick if we have to talk about him.
no, it just always looks like he's on the warpath. Always. Whenever he's speaking, he looks like he's riling the troops. That's what it always seems to even when he's speaking at universities, it's always like he's riling his army, ready for preparing for battle. He's like Henry V on the edge of Agincourt. He's like that riling speech always, where
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be that way. It can just be soft spoken and nice and gentle, and we just actually speak about this civilly rather than going all gung ho. But it kind of brings me on to the point. We're talking about these leaders, and we're talking about the populist, obviously populist politics. Got there. The alliteration was difficult then for me.
I understand it.
The obviously with you being of the Vox Pops era, or community, shall we say, and obviously it is all about elections. Generally are that big popularity competition with substance behind it. Where I get worried is, where does that populism or the popularity contest trade off with authenticity? Because you mentioned with Zach Polanski, he's just being him. That's him. He's putting himself out there, truly authentic, and that will come across. Do you think other leaders are doing the same, or do you think they're trading off their authenticity to become popular?
I don't think. Well, who we talk?
Anybody. I mean,
Let's
look at
think of the other leaders
it's a,
that exist. I mean, Starmer isn't a leader, is he? And we all know he's not going to last very much longer. So, I, so the only person that we can talk about really as a
mm,
that is currently an effective leader of their party is Farage. So it's like, so we may as well talk about Farage.
Let's just, yeah, I've talked enough about Keir Starmer anyway. He's a in my opinion, he's an absolute wet wipe, and he needs to step aside. But I had
Well,
Keziah
there's no one
Noble
to
on.
replace him. So he's
No,
basically, and Andy Burnham could have been the replacement, but they messed that up. So there's no one
but
else.
even then, I don't think he would. I tell you what, Labour went downhill, in my opinion. Just on a side note, when they had the leadership, part of the leadership race or whatever, and it was Ed Miliband, David Miliband, and a couple of splattering of others. And I if they'd have picked David Miliband, I guarantee they would have probably been in power for a long time. But they ended up going with, I think they went with Ed Miliband, which is just like, as much as it is.
And then actually, Andy Burnham actually was the next time around was up against Corbyn. Actually, he by all accounts he didn't run a very effective leadership campaign. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, everyone said that David Miliband was going to be great, but did anyone really know how good David Miliband was going to be?
Well, no, but the reason why I thought it would be good is because he was not a product of the world of politics. He was a product of the world of finance, and I don't think necessarily he was.
I don't think that's. I genuinely watch industry. I don't think that's necessarily a good endorsement. I mean, you could say the same about Starmer. He wasn't a product of the world of politics. He was a product of the world of law. I don't think.
Well,
I think no one knows. I mean, Andy Burnham, people do know, is a very effective politician. He's a very effective leader of Manchester. So I would say that he has more credentials to run the Labour Party. I'll say that again. He's got more credentials to run the Labour Party than anyone else right now. But
yeah, I agree.
I'm not that excited by Labour, full stop. I actually think that all of the excitement I've ever had about Labour has actually transferred over to the Greens in a big way. And I'm more excited about the Green Party than I ever was excited about Jeremy Corbyn.
So, apologies, that was me derailing that question.
But that's okay. We can cut it out later. We can cut it all out. We could just make it a 5-minute podcast, because I do think that I waffle a hell of a lot as well, and I really struggle to finish a sentence a lot of the time as well.
Well, I've had feedback from a couple of what I tend to do is I have trains of thought, and then to validate that train of thought, I will go off on a tangent. But then that tangent needs validating as well, so I'll end up down another tangent, and then I forget where I ended up coming back to. So I keep on practicing to return to where I want to, because what happens is the end of the interview takes place, and I go, oh fuck, I never finished that train of thought.
I'm guessing that the only people that might end up listening to this are a couple of very happy intellectual stoners who are like, and they're like, oh yeah, this, and drifting in and out. That might be quite nice. Maybe not intellectual. They don't have to be intellectual at all either, to be honest.
If that's the case and they're listening and smoking now, just invite me, drop me into the DM and invite me next time, and I can listen along with you. But yeah, so do you think, so let's talk about Farage then. Let's get Starmer out of the way. Farage, do you think he's trading his authenticity for the populist vote?
But you're assuming that he has authenticity.
Well, everybody's got authenticity, whether it's, you believe him to be evil. So if that's his case, then that's his authentic self from your perspective. But everybody's got some sort of authenticity, whether you're a mass murderer, a psychopath, or whether you're a primary school teacher. Everybody's got their authentic self. So do you think what you see with him is actually who he is, or do you think he's playing for the cameras?
I mean, I have no idea. But I mean, I do think that he spends a lot of time worming out of the important issues. I think that he doesn't reveal I mean, the truth of the matter is when I go out and talk to people on the street and tell him what how and ask people whether they think, is he a man of the working class? Does he support the working class? And his supporters will say, yeah. And then in a matter of a minute, you can tell them things about him, and they'll be like, and you can see things happening inside their head, the wheel
Mm.
turning. So I um I don't know whether he's authentic to himself. I mean, I mean, he's either he either is and is very fucking deluded, or he's a fucking asshole. Those are the two options. Yeah, he's yeah, maybe yeah. And maybe there's a very tiny little piece of him that's decent that we could work on. But I'd say that's pretty high hanging fruit. I'm not going to go for it.
I like that. I like that. That phrase doesn't get used enough. High hanging fruit,
Yeah,
low hanging fruit all the time, but high hanging fruit. I like that. So, what I wanted to touch on, because I think you've done a video on this. I'm sure you have. But about, and I see it now with Labour. You know, I get a bee in my bonnet about these social media posts by political parties
yeah,
because it's just it's bullshit, and I see straight through it. So they're raising the national living wage up to 15 something an hour, and the tagline underneath, this is Labour, like the tagline underneath it was reducing the cost of living, and I know I shouldn't, but I can't. I was like, hang on, no. Raising wages isn't the same as reducing the cost of living. That's not the way that works. Like, that's reducing the cost of living is making shit cheaper.
yeah,
Just putting people's wages up isn't the reducing the cost of living, because all that's going to happen is the people that have to now pay an extra quid or £2 an hour are just going to put that onto the fucking goods and services that they're selling to the public anyway. So it's all relative. It doesn't matter. But one of the big things that the Green Party and Gary Stevenson, who I've got a bee in my bonnet about as well, is taxing the rich or taxing the wealthy.
yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. I really do understand where everybody's coming from. I really do, because it's that feeling almost of desperation. I feel it's that desperation of, right, well, you know, I haven't got it, so that fucker's got it, and that fucker's going to have to pay his share because I can't pay anymore because I'm only barely hanging on. That seems to be the sentiment from the population. Would you agree on that? Have I got that completely wrong? Am I completely out of touch?
Well, I think I mean, I don't know about the population. I know that I go to for me, the irony is I go to some of the poorest areas, and some people there who are not living a high life, probably haven't been on holiday for a very long time, and will say that billionaires deserve their money because they created something. And it's just like, well, I don't know where that sentiment is coming from. I think that's something that's institutionalized. It's an idea, but I think it's very outdated. So, and so I, s- I work with trade unions. I see basically how people are treated like shit in factories that are owned by wealthy billionaire bosses. And there was something that I worked out, which I did with with video, which was in Coventry, where there is an Amazon factory, and there are Amazon workers that were trying to go on strike, but they were, but Amazon were doing all these kind of dirty tricks to make sure that they didn't become unionized. So they were, I mean, they were very complicated, messy old business. So I was trying to raise awareness about, okay, what the conditions that were happening inside this Amazon factory, how people were forced to work ridiculous hours, weren't able to have breaks, all that kind of stuff. And I had an awareness of, like, how much is Jeff Bezos worth, the guy that set up Amazon?
There's a fucking,
Uh,
like, what, $280 billion, something stupid like that. At the last time I looked, I mean,
yeah,
after the first 100 billion, what's the fucking point in counting?
yeah. And you may already know this because I think I mentioned it in this other podcast actually as well. So if you were on 30 grand a year, how long, basically as a traditional Amazon worker, how long would you have to work to amass the wealth of Jeff Bezos? bearing in mind that
I have this conversation with my daughter quite a lot to sort of explain the difference, and not many people understand it. And I know there's a fair few videos going around. The difference between 1 million and 1 billion
yeah,
is fucking incomprehensible of like the time difference. So I think the example I use is like 1 million minutes or 1 million seconds, I think, is 11 days, whereas 1 billion seconds is 32 years. That's
yeah.
the fucking difference. Now, if somebody's got $280 billion, then 30 grand, you're probably going to have to work fucking millions of years to get
Yeah.
anywhere near it.
Yeah, so most people that you meet on the street will like go, "Oh, you'd have to work a lifetime. You can do it," and it'd be like,
And then some.
yeah, or it might, and even some people say 100 years, 1,000 years, 6 million years.
Yeah.
I mean, it is obscene. Now, I am not an expert in the way the world economy works. I'm not an economist. I'm not gonna, and to be honest, so if I don't know for a fact that taxing billionaires is going to solve all the problems, and it might bring other problems as well, that's not my job. It's not my, but I do know that the society that we live in, which is so basically where you've got these people that are exploiting and taking as much as they can. I do see it as a mental health problem. I see Jeff Bezos as a hoarder. He does
It's almost maniacal, isn't it? It is very.
That money doesn't make him happy.
No.
There's another video made by the TUC which shows Jeff Bezos in his house, just basically with money everywhere, and it's like, you've got a problem. You've got an absolute issue here, and it's like, no, but I need the money. What do you need it for? I don't know. I just need
Don't
it.
know.
And
it like Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah, and so there is an issue with the way that things are at the moment. That these are also the people that a lot of people aspire to be, but they're not. I mean, like, what was that film? We'll cut out the pauses while I remember the film.
Sorry.
The film which was oh god, this is awful. I hate it when this happens.
Go on, who's in it? I've got a decent encyclopedic knowledge of movies.
You know, but you know when your mind goes blank and you've even forgotten who's in the bloody film. The film is about the guy that ends up making a fortune in America, but he is full of from stock market screwing over poor people.
The long short.
No, not the long short. It's not a true story. It's got
Limitless.
What's his? Oh god, I can't even remember his name.
Could be
Leonardo
Limitless.
DiCaprio.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
DiCaprio's in it.
Oh, Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh, thank the fucking Lord. Okay, can we cut that bit out? Can we just go straight?
I won't make it like you wouldn't remember Wolf of Wall Street at all, Adam. What a really good film, by the way. So yeah, but that is a true story. That's Jordan Belfort, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's a true story about very good. Wolf of Wall Street, and the guy is a mess, isn't he? The guy's a mess in it, and he's ruined shitloads of people's lives. I went on YouTube and saw a trailer and looked at all the comments, and everyone was like, "What a great guy! What a legend!" This is what people aspire to, and it actually. You say it's a great film. I don't think it's a great film, and the reason I don't think it's a great film is that I think that someone like Martin Scorsese, who has got the freedom to make any film that he wants, doesn't have to glamorize that guy, because he is so glamorized.
Now, I look at that and I don't see it as glamorized. I watch that movie and say, "Holy shit!
Come on!
That shows
Leonardo DiCaprio is one of the most handsome men in the world."
Oh yeah, but he's a bit of a dickhead.
You're not a woman then, or you're not a gay man. I don't know, but
no.
he's a very handsome man, and he's someone that a lot of people want to be. So
yeah,
in reality, the guy was a fucking boring businessman.
Yeah,
people aspire to all of the to. I mean, it made all of the drug scenes hilariously funny. You actually naturally feel empathy towards this guy. The guy is.
No. I mean, I looked at it. I must. And I don't know whether it must come with age, because maybe if I was younger, I'd look at that and say, "Oh yeah, that would be. I'd love to be at that party." But I suppose maybe at the age that I'm at, I'm not old by any means. It's just.
Okay.
Oh God, I did this. Am I 36 or 37? I did this the other day. I kind of stopped counting after 34. 37. So I but I look at that and I think, yeah, fuck it. That shows the dirty, seedy underbelly that I wouldn't want any part in it. It doesn't romanticize it for me. It doesn't make me look back and say, oh, don't get me wrong. I've not been a good boy all my life. But I can understand as well at the same time from other people's perspective for a young lad to look at that with all the girls on his arm and cocaine and lewds and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, I can. I get where you're coming from.
I hate to tell you this, I'm 14 years older than you, and I think that they glamorized and it made that look like made this guy someone that people wanted to aspire to be. And the film is just like it's not a Ken Loach film, is it? It's
No.
not, it doesn't
Ken
make you
Loach
think,
film.
okay, this is like, I mean, ultimately the guy comes out on top. He wins. So yeah, so it doesn't, and you don't see the fucking pain and the reality
The fallout of the other
people that
people,
he
yeah,
fucked
yeah.
over. So that is not a film that presents any reality, and for that reason, I don't think it's a good film, because I just think it's
No, I get you.
I just think it's just like playing the Hollywood game, and it's like, oh, it's easy to make. It's just so, and I find films that are brilliant are the ones that step you out of that. That are
Yeah, I mean, there's a few. There's a really good one. I love it. It's a true story about it's some. There's a couple actually, fictional, which Viggo Mortensen lives basically what my dream life would be, which is Captain Fantastic. So if you ever want to watch a good movie, Captain Fantastic, one of the
great.
best movies of all time. I love it.
I
And
like
then
Viggo.
the other one, yeah, he's brilliant. He's good in Green Book as well. But the other one is Into the Wild, which is a true story
Yeah.
of Alexander Supertramp, who basically gave up all this stuff that we're talking
I
about.
started
now.
watching that on a plane recently. So, and it's but then I was going to watch it again, and then my wife told me that it didn't have a great ending.
Oh
But,
no, it's not happy. It's not like a Disney ending at all.
yeah.
But most stories throughout life don't have
Yeah, but that's a real
sort
film.
of
That's a
happy
real
ending.
story, isn't it? That's a real.
Yeah, they show the pictures at the end. It's a great movie.
Can I ask? Have I
Go on.
actually answered? Have we actually finished?
We
every
haven't got to
topic?
we haven't got to the taxation bit yet. So this is the whole point. So the problem with me, or the problem I see, and this goes along pretty much all of politics. It almost always seems like it's either kick the can politics. So it's like, this'll do for the next 10 to 15 years. Some other fucker can deal with it then. Which I've seen that now. That's going to happen with what Labour have just done to farmers across the UK. We're going to have to deal with this problem that they've now caused in 20, 30 years' time, when there's no fucking farms and nobody's growing anything, but we'll have council estates left, right, and centre. Or it's half-ass policies that are either partly or half-heartedly put into practice. And this is what I see with the taxation, is the first thing that I would be doing, instead of going to tax billionaires, and don't get me wrong, I can agree with everybody that 280 odd billion pounds, dollars, pence, whatever it fucking is a ridiculous sum of money. But the first thing I'd do before going after any of that is politicians, governments need accountability for where the fuck they're currently spending what money they are getting, because this year they're due to collect, I think, 1.25 trillion pounds in tax over the calendar year. That's enough to run a fucking country. I don't care who you are, where you're from. That's enough to run what we need to run as a country. Where is it all going? Because there was one recently, they changed the gov.uk logo. Did you see that?
Oh yeah.
They didn't really change it, but 500 grand on that. Now, whoever sanctioned that or signed off on it needs fucking sacking. See you in a bit. You're no good at your job, because I could have done that on fucking clip art. I could have got ChatGPT to do it for me for free, but you've paid 500 grand.
So there's a big thing you raised there.
Yeah, just a bit. Can you see why it winds me up, Adam?
I can, and I think there are some things that are run well. I think the civil service, I think there are a lot of very wise, clever civil servants. There's a lot of people that do know what they're doing. And there are obviously examples of things that go horribly wrong. So, I mean, you look at the NHS, and obviously the NHS it's a hard thing to run. And some of it still runs okay. Some of it, I mean, like, it's just a bit of a lottery, isn't it? What kind of care you're going to get when you go in. So, and some hospitals run well, and some hospitals run less well, and it's all about those. So, I think that I think they're two separate things. I think so. I do believe that most civil servants want to do a good job, and do their best, and I think that ultimately the governments that come in are just deciding this goes there, this goes there, this goes there. And there is kind of some kind of institutionalization about how these things have been run for years, where they're carrying on being run like they are. And some of it, like you say, you get some ridiculous things where people are wasting shitloads of public money on a logo. And there's lots of examples of loads of money being wasted. But then I think a lot of it probably, I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but my instinct
No.
is a lot of it is also being spent well, and it's being spent on the right things in terms of social care and just sort of like trying to create communities that are, I mean, the councils, I think a lot of councils are run really badly, and again, some are run really well. And actually, interestingly enough, the instinct I have is that the ones that have been run best recently are ones that are independent. So that they, so it's interesting that you can see that how things can potentially be done better by having like a fresh pair of eyes looking at that stuff. So,
I
but
think the concern for me is when you see, we saw it through COVID, where chums were getting given their contracts of 350, 400, 500 million pound contracts to their best buddies. Now, that COVID luckily
that was really good.
exposed that for us. It did expose that sort of level of corruption and two-tieredness within the political system, you know, especially with, you know, parties at Westminster and all that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. Now, it might be the cynic in me, but I look at that and think, well, we've just found out. So this has been going on for fucking eons.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
if you think it's stopped now, then you more fool you.
I mean, I think they're two separate things. I think there is a lot there is corruption that flies around in that political arena within councils. There's a brilliant again reenactment of a true story on, I think it's on is it on Netflix, called Toxic Town.
Oh, yes, I've seen it.
Another great example of how that stuff's been going on for years. So for anyone that hasn't watched it, it's a true story that happened in Corby, I think in the 80s, around a scandal relating to kids being born with disabilities. And it's just a phenomenal story, phenomenal series, which exposes how people will get away with, again, cutting corners and through it trying to line their own pockets, and the poor person loses. And in this case, a lot of poor people had to deal with just the fallout of having kids that were born with disabilities. And the way the community came together was amazing. But anyway, that's by the by. I do think though that these are very separate conversations relating to how billionaires work, and how billionaires, because billionaires now in a lot of ways are more powerful than governments. So
they are 100% more powerful. You can't, anybody that says that they're not, you just need to look at, I mean, I'm not going into it, but look at what's happening with the release of the Epstein files. All them people have a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah.
And not one of the fuckers is in prison.
Yeah, it's frightening, isn't it? It's frightening.
It's frightening.
The way the justice system works is petrifying, and that's what makes it exciting about seeing someone like Andrew actually getting his comeuppance. But it's just, like one person being thrown to the wolves while everyone else gets away scot-free. So yeah, I see that, but I do
I
see
mean,
that.
Woody Allen's still out there, married to his stepdaughter.
Yeah,
Not have faced any justice whatsoever. I mean, if that's fucked up beyond belief, but yeah, but got money, powerful, doesn't face any comeuppance, or there's no accountability for his actions. Same as former President Clinton.
yeah. Well,
You know,
I don't know. I'm not gonna.
no,
Those are those are
I
separate
didn't want to
things
get into it.
because I don't. I mean, I don't know whether. I mean, yeah. Realistically, I don't know if Woody Allen. I know he's named in the Epstein files. I mean, we don't know what these people are guilty of. So
No,
again, so this is stuff that like you still don't know, and it might be that there are there are people that are getting away with it, and there are people that are to an extent innocent. I don't know the ins and outs. I'm pretty convinced that Trump must be guilty, but I don't know. So a lot of this is kind of like, but we know that there
yeah.
are a lot of guilty people that have done some awful things that are implicated and will be doing their everything to
Well, it's
escape justice.
the reason why I brought it up is just to show, when people start saying that the law is the law. Well, not really. Not if you're a multi-million billionaire.
Yeah.
The law doesn't mean anything.
But so you're kind of like bringing those two things together, aren't you? So actually, when we're talking about the wealth of billionaires, and actually, they're kind of they're part of the same system. If you're talking about how governments are operating and are not spending the money that they have wisely and doing it well, or sharing that wealth out wisely, or administering it well, um, it is separate but also related to the fact that billionaires are getting away with murder as well, and that often a lot of those billionaires are the crooks at the same time. So I just want to see a fairer way of it working. It's that
I think
simple.
I think most people do. It's like the whole, I've seen it before. There's I can't remember for the life of me. It's a book called Cobalt Red, which is about the artisanal cobalt mines in the Congo in Africa. He was on Joe Rogan's podcast. I can't remember for the life of me, but the book's called Cobalt Red, and it's all about how every single rechargeable battery that you have on any device whatsoever comes from this place in the Congo where people are dying in mines. Now, as much as people try and sort of say, "Oh yeah, but Elon Musk is trying to change the world by creating Teslas and electric cars, and it's green for the planet." Go and tell that to them people in Africa that are dying in these mines, and it goes back all the way to the beginning of this conversation where we are all kind of indoctrinated into these systems without really fully understanding what is encompassed within these systems.
But you started this question with a little bit of whataboutery
Yeah, it's true.
with the wealth tax. So what do you think about that?
I think the first protocol for me, aside from going after billionaires, the first protocol is don't get me wrong, it might come out at the end of it that yes, we do need to tax billionaires more because we need to get more money in. But what it screams to me is at this moment in time, the amount of money that I saw it when through COVID, like I mentioned, is the amount of money that's getting wasted and getting and it's not just the waste, it's getting pumped to friends and non-profits and CICs and this, that, the other, and people that go into office of a six-figure salary are coming out multi-millionaires.
I I guess let I mean the simplest way I can put it is if you are voting for the Green Party to implement a wealth tax, you are voting also for the Green Party to decide how that wealth is going to be distributed around the country. So it's not like, so you're not just voting for the wealth tax, you're also voting for the belief that they are going to do something better with how that money is distributed. And that's what I'm buying into. So it's kind of like, it's a faith, isn't it? You have to. I mean, for me, it's like you've got a choice between having hope or being or feeling completely hopeless. So I've got a lot of hope in that. It makes so.
The other end of the spectrum.
So what you think that What
I just,
what
I don't.
what would you prefer to vote than the Green Party?
Well, nobody at this moment in time. There's nobody that's sort of lighting my
So
fire
why wouldn't you
to.
vote for the Green Party based on that?
Um, the problem is I think it's almost trying to run before you walk in terms, and it's the same thing. I kind of get where you're coming from in terms of if a vote for taxing billionaires is also a vote for accountability and making sure that money's spent in the right areas. It's almost just
But why
all
wouldn't
the.
it be? Why are you assuming that it wouldn't be when you know what the Green Party stand for?
Well, you said it right at the beginning in terms of absolute power corrupts absolutely. And the problem is when you're in that position and the gravy train is rolling, it's going to be nigh on impossible for the gravy train to be stopped.
But I did also say that the Green Party are run differently, where actually all
Yeah,
of
I
their
know that.
I mean, it's decided by the members. Everything, all those issues, all those policies are decided by the members. That is a massive difference to how any other political party is run. So
Well, it's meant to be the same in every political
it's
party.
not.
However, it's not.
It's not at all. Those issues. Zach Polansky does not decide the policy of the Green Party. He doesn't. It's decided at conference with the members. So that is I mean, for me, that's a phenomenal difference. That means that you're having faith in all the people that are members of the Green Party, and you can sign up for £5 a month.
It's always a cost. It's always a cost.
Well, you know what? I'm sure if you're struggling, you might get a discount. I don't know if that's true. I might be. I have no idea if that's the case.
You're gonna get loads of emails after this.
You promised me a special offer.
So, yeah, I mean, I do get it. I just think the first thing that I would want, that sort of clean house, you've got to start from a clean slate, and the clean slate is right. Accountability. What's been happening? Where's all this money going? Because there's no point in having that one as it currently stands. I suppose there's that little bit of distrust from me in terms of the fact that, say, let's play this hypothetical. Say the Green Party get in power, and after their first year of taxation, and they've brought in this wealth tax, and they've collected now, because of this wealth tax, £2.5 trillion in the first year. And then you look at it, and it's only cost them 700 million, which is what it was 3 years ago. So it's only cost them 700 million. I don't have the faith, and not necessarily because it's Zach Polansky, I don't have the faith in politicians, full stop, to go, hang on a minute, guys. We've massively overcollected on tax here. We're going to give you tax breaks left, right, and centre.
Okay, so what is the point of you even hosting a show that talks about politics if you're never going to have faith in anyone?
I do have faith, but I have faith in steps to get to that point, rather than just trusting somebody to do the right thing after the fact that you've got all the money in. It's almost like sorry.
So tell Zach Polansky now. It's your opportunity. What would you implement now in order for you to have faith in him?
So before, just on this issue alone, the first thing that I would do is I would take an audit of where every single penny collected has gone, where every single penny of public spending has gone to, whether that, and it needs to be in depth. We need to know as a population how from 2023 to 2026, we've gone from 758 million pounds collected, billion pounds collected in a year, to now 1.25 trillion. Now, 1.1525, it doesn't really matter. But that difference is mammoth. Now, I don't feel better off. I don't feel,
well, you're not
500 billion pounds better off. All public services seem to be depleting, but yet all taxes going. There's just been a £5 tax increase in the area that I live in.
So you're asking for an audit? I think it's a good idea. It sounds like a pretty good idea from this non-expert economic person here. Have you spoken to some economists? Is it possible?
It probably is possible, and it's probably a good idea to get one of them on. I think that's the first thing I want to do, because for me, you can't make an actual informed decision like we were talking at the beginning.
Yeah.
You need all the facts out on the page to make, it's all well and good.
Okay, so ask James Medway. He's an economist that I have respect for. So he's the person to ask this question to. See if he'll come on.
He might put my sleepless nights to bed, and I might actually get some sleep rather than thinking about, like, why is nobody seeing what I'm seeing at 2 a.m. in the morning?
Fine, but you might, yeah. I mean, maybe you are. Maybe you've touched on something that's very important and will actually help have people have a bit more faith. I don't know.
Don't get me wrong. After that audit, it might be, well, we do need that money from billionaires. That's fine. I just think there's that step needed before going whole hog. Do you know what I mean?
I see. So it's about, but
it's just
right,
not knowing.
Okay, so you want to do that? Oh, I see. That doesn't make any sense.
There's just no point. There's just no point in doing something without knowing all the facts.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You had me until I realized that was your motive, just to basically give the billionaires a free ride. I don't get it. No,
No. It's not about giving billionaires a free ride. What it's about is the solution to me.
Doesn't matter if you don't need the money. You could still use it, couldn't you? It could still be used better than billionaires are using it. So it's a little bit.
From my perspective,
the way you said it was just a bit interesting. From my perspective,
it's obviously the tax system is a joke where the sort of 90% prop up the 10%, or even less, 99% prop up the 1%. Yeah. But the thing for me is, or the solution to this problem, if there isn't enough money in the pot, as what's sort of universally proclaimed, that there's not enough money and we're going to have to raise this tax and we're going to have to raise this tax and get, it's like Jim Ratcliffe at United, just cutting left, right, and centre and cutting the fat and saving everything. If there isn't enough, why isn't there enough? Why is there not enough? Why? Where is it going? Now, if that's the case, and we do that audit and we say, right, well, everything's above board, the spending where they should be spending, this, that, the other, then obviously you have to get money from the places where it can be gotten from, because the population or the public are bled dry. There's nothing more that can be given. We've got the highest sort of tax rates.
I think let's why don't we compromise and just say let's just do both?
Yeah, well, it could be both, but ultimately, I want. You know what I want?
I'm sorry, I am not having you do your audit and just give it as an option to say, oh, you know what, we don't need to tax the billionaires anymore, because there's still something that money could be going to, which is a lot better use than where it's going at the moment.
100%. And at the same time, what should happen after the audit and exposing all the corrupt politicians that are fucking lining the pockets of the friends, what should happen after that is every single person that is earning less than 50 grand a year, let's make it a bit bigger. Let's make it less than £100,000 a year. Every single person should have their tax bill cut in half, and then the billionaires can get raised tax. That I'm all for, 100%. Fine. But the problem is at the minute, we're giving more money to corrupt bastards that are sat in Westminster lining the pockets of the friends. That's not the solution. That's the one-way street to Fucksville, because all they're going to do is
we agree on
get
that.
Richer.
Yeah, very good. Okay, we agree on that. This is great.
I got to that point. But I do 100% think that audit or that accountability, that's what's wrong with politics. That's one of the main things, is the accountability, and not just from a fiscal perspective, but from what people say, what the policies are. There's no, I spoke to a Reform UK councillor. Subsequently, he got suspended for putting.
Of course he did.
like they all do. I mean, my local MP, who's Labour MP, he got suspended for putting messages about the pensioners in WhatsApp groups as well. So I don't live in a particularly great area politically. So the problem is, for me, is the accountability. It's if somebody fucks up, then don't cover it up and sweep it under the rug. You're going to have to face the music and rectify. That's your job as a public servant. You've got to rectify the issue, whatever it may be. And I put the question to
So let me
Tom.
just throw something out at you. So
Go on.
because I do think there are some good ideas flying around at the moment, and one has been touted in that's as something that might happen in Wales, because Wales often come up with the better ideas
Is that
earlier than everyone else. Yeah,
the
the
lion
lying
thing?
thing.
Fucking brilliant idea. What
Yeah,
a phenomenal idea. Like,
yeah.
yes, I'm all on board for that.
Well,
I think that's such a good idea.
what a great yeah. I actually might take it to the streets. I
Do
might,
it.
because I think that people will fucking love it. I mean, imagine being
100%.
I mean, because we all think that politicians lie. That's because they do
Well, we
lie.
don't
What if it became
think.
a criminal offence?
Fuck it, yeah.
It's a criminal
So it
offence for a
should be.
politician to lie. What? There we
100
go.
and yeah, and honestly, in any walk of life, that lying's necessarily frowned upon. But in the political sphere, if you are caught lying, the first thing that you should do is that's it. You're never in politics ever again. But yeah, it should be a criminal offence, 100%.
But you know what's interesting? I mean, I listened to the news agents, and Lewis, who's I think is a bright young guy that I've forgotten his surname, but he was talking about how one of the great tests of a politician is how much they are prepared to die for their party by being thrown out to the wolves to defend an undefendable position, as if that was a good thing. And it's like, well, that's how. And I just thought, isn't it curious that this guy who's a political commentator would say that that is the mark of a good politician. It shows that you have loyalty to the party above anything else. And it's
Which
like,
is
that
it's
doesn't,
bonkers.
isn't it? And that's someone that
It's
I've got, and
so warped.
this is someone that I would have more respect for as a political commentator than most political commentators. So it's an interesting thing that, again, people are being institutionalized by the institution of Westminster. The idea
Yeah.
that you've got, I mean, how outdated is it to have people called whips who literally go
Oh,
around whipping people to say, get into line, otherwise you're going to get told off. We're going to give you a good spanking. I mean, no.
I mean,
I mean,
I
what?
find it so surreal, and you know what it reminds me of. So when you see, I watched Hannah Spencer get sworn in the other day, and obviously all the pomp and pageantry that goes on with that sort of process. I look at it and I get the same feeling. I grew up Catholic, Roman Catholic. I went to church every Sunday. And confession every Wednesday.
Yeah.
Did my altar boy stuff when I was up to the age of like 14 with the white robe and red robe and carrying the cross around and
I was
stuff.
going to say something I shouldn't, but
No, not that altar boy stuff. And I think I look at it now. So I was at a christening relatively recently, and there was hymns sung. And I look at it objectively. It's such a weird fucking practice to do.
yeah.
It's a strange thing to observe. If you can get out of your own head, which I quite often do, and
Yeah.
look at it objectively, it's a really strange thing. Then you look at Westminster and the way that operates.
It seems completely normal.
It's fucking bonkers. It's just not normal at all. It's weird, and the way that.
But we are okay. But you got to take into account that we are human, and humans are pretty fucking weird. And there is something great about being weird. I mean, I'm Jewish, and I see quite a lot. Or I mean, some of the traditions that you have in Judaism are pretty mental as well, but they are great. Some of the festivals are so much fun. We've just had Purim. So just people, I mean, and you walk around. So I live in East London, and the Hasidic Jews, which are very close to me, just like wandering. I mean, it's like Halloween in March, and they're all having a lot of fun. So I quite enjoy some of the weirdness, and I don't mind a little bit of the pomp. But
that's okay in religion and culture. I get it. You're running a fucking country. We don't need just run the country. You don't need to do that. You just move with the times a little bit, which which I kind of like
I don't think
from the
that.
Green Party, is moving with the times. They're
Yeah.
not sort of. It is evolution of politics to an extent. I get that, and I can get on board with that.
I'm just going to ask you, how much more are we going to talk for? Because we're at a couple of. It's going very well. It's a couple of hours.
It's
I'm slightly wondering
generally about 2 hours.
who's still going to be listening now.
Do you know what? It's quite funny. A lot of my listeners message me and say like what they do is they listen to one episode a week. So they'll have like a 20-minute journey in the car, and they'll listen to a part of it, then part of it on the way home and stuff. It's good. So yeah, it's generally I aim for about 2 hours because I think after the first hour we kind of get to know each other a little bit.
I've
get that rapport.
I've definitely got
And then that second hour is when generally when the juicy shit starts coming out, and that's when
have we got juicy? Would you say?
I'd say there's some good bits in there.
Yeah,
100%.
I hope
but yeah,
so.
I think I find it very fucking weird, the whole sort of Westminster political thing, and you know, I really hope that, you know, for those that don't sort of understand how big a thing this next election is going to be, like so we've already mentioned 1655. I'm pretty certain I'm right on that, is when Parliament was formed, and it was two parties, the Whigs and the Tories. The Whigs changed into what are now the Liberal Democrats. And then what happened in the 1900s? Labour came along. Labour were the new kid on the block. Well, 1890. Now, that was massive at the time when Labour started. It was huge. And when they displaced Liberal Democrats as the opposition to the Tories, it was like unthought of. Now, to have that happen again so soon, and generally, it's not just one party that's being displaced, it's both of them. This is mammoth.
I think it does depend, though. Because it's so much tied in with who replaces Starmer as to whether Labour are going to.
I just can't see it. I can't see it. I think he's done so much damage with his lies, which it's just ridiculous that man, whatever he says, I just can't trust anymore. And you know, I looked up I see it quite a lot.
I think what you don't. It's bizarre though, isn't it? Because now we live in an age where personality is a huge influencer.
Oh, it's currency. Yeah, personality is currency.
And so I do think that actually the leader of a party now is more important than the party itself in a lot of ways. So
just to draw people in, 100%.
So I mean, I'm all for Labour being a spent force because I've chosen my team, but I don't. But I think it's very difficult to predict, and I think
if he doesn't relinquish control, which I don't see
it. He's doing it for the team. He doesn't. I don't think he wants to be there anymore. I think he knows he's a dead horse.
Which dead horse? I like that one. But I think that's specifically why he will hold on to that position white knuckled until somebody drags him off it, because he knows he's got no hope in hell of being re-elected. So I'm going to stay in this position of power as long as I fucking can. That's what I think he's doing.
I think it's more that the powers that be are deciding, okay, who is going to replace him, and they're all jostling for position, and there'll be some kind of deal that is done, and they're going to work out whether they're going to try and find a way to get Burnham in, but that looks like it's a long shot. But who is there? There's Angela Rayner. I don't really rate her. There's Wes Streeting. I don't rate him. There's David Miller. There's Ed Miliband still. He almost looks like the best of a bad bunch there at the moment.
So which is a fucking tough act to make him look good.
So,
but yeah, I mean, I'd have loved to have been a fly on the wall in that conversation of the powers that be, when somebody walks in the room and goes, "What are we going to do?" And then the response is, "I don't have a fucking clue. I don't know."
But isn't it also? It's just strange, isn't it, that Starmer had such a brilliant career as a lawyer, and took. I mean, basically defended people that were activists that were trying to make the world better in the face of it, and now is doing and is
Now,
going against all of those principles.
now he
It,
puts him in prison.
yeah, I find it, and it's like he's lost his voice. I feel like
Mm.
I genuinely think there was a decent guy there. And
I
actually,
mean, up to the election, he ran almost a faultless race. He was perfect. What he was saying, he was making all the right moves, making all the right speeches, the right noises. But then he's just reneged on every fucking thing he said.
there's even, I mean, I was listening to the Today program the other day, and there was a Labour MP from Leeds who was old, die-in-the-wall Labour, proper working class, and he was furious after they'd lost the by-election, and he was screaming about how Starmer had to go, and he said, you know what, but Starmer's not a bad guy. He said, he's like, I talked to him, he's a friend of mine, and we have a chat together, and I tell him to his face that he's got to allow Burnham in. And then he goes, okay, I've listened to your views. And then what does he do? He doesn't let Burnham in. And he was furious. And it was just like, wow, this just shows that sadly they picked someone that they thought could be the least offensive person to the electorate. And as it happens, he just came in and he just didn't, I mean, he was just so unbelievably inoffensive that he has offended everyone. So,
which is, I mean, to do what he's done in such, well, what's it been now? It's 18 months, is it, roughly? To do what he's done in that short space of time and literally turn the full, almost the full country against him is some feat.
Yeah, and I say that, and actually don't quote me on that, because actually a lot of the things he's done have been pretty unbelievably offensive, but he's just done it in a way that appears to be under the veneer of a polite, decent Englishman.
So,
or Welshman.
or whatever he is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'd close on this, and this is the thing that you kind of touched on it a little bit there. Like, the way he's behaved, I know the thing that's banded around towards Farage is fascist, Nazi, all that sort of stuff. But if you actually look at the definition of fascism, which is authoritarian, suppression of opposition, rejection of democracy, instilling order and obedience and control over society and economy, it sounds exactly like what Starmer's been doing. It sounds precise. You know, I mean, he doesn't like dissent. He's rejecting his party's wishes of him moving over. So that's in essence the rejection of democracy.
That's not. No, I'll push back on that. He hasn't. The party, they're always slow at disposing a leader, so he knows he's doing it for the party he's staying on. So that's not.
But at the same time, with the digital ID stuff, that should be a democratic vote.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's like, no, you're having it. You know, I can't remember who it was, but there was an interview where she mentioned, we're not going to instill it straight away because there would be mass civil disobedience. They were the precise words that she used, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is all over." But yeah, I think this next election is going to be.
There is a whole different league table of authoritarianism if you're talking about the difference between Starmer and Farage. So, I mean, there is. Farage,
I mean, he's not in power.
Some of the stuff he says that he wants to do is just phenomenal.
He's not in power.
I've just had a video come out today talking about what Farage's views on women and Reform's views on women. It's like on day one he says he's going to scrap the Equality Act, so which means that that employers will all of a sudden be able to sack women that are pregnant, and that men will be able to be paid more than women for doing the same job. I mean, all of the sort of like things that people have fought for out the window. I mean, people don't see it. It's like he's saying what he wants to be. So, and he's not even denying that he is going to, do some pretty crazy, messed up, loony right shit when he gets in.
Loony right and not loony left.
Yeah.
I think we'll find out, and I think most people will be following along. hopefully getting the information from the sources that they should be getting the information from, and understanding that mainstream media doesn't really do anything for anybody anymore other than the people that pay them.
From cut the shit. Yeah.
Well, yeah, if they want to come here and get some sort of information and some semblance of order, and we do actually get to the points eventually, and try and make it as coherent as possible.
I do apologize. I worry that I have been a little bit hostile in some respects. But
Not at all. No, not at all. And I think that speaks volumes about your personality and you, Adam. I honestly, I've had more uncivil conversations with my missus than I have with yourself.
we all have had that, though, haven't we? We've all had that.
I think just understanding that two people can have a conversation from different parts of view. You're very much on the party of the Green Party. I'm pretty much on the fence of every single party going, because I think they're all as bad as each other. But we can still discuss topics and bounce ideas, and I think it's important.
Have you at all had shifted in any way since with this conversation?
You know what? I don't think anything would shift. I would love to speak to him. I would love to speak to Zach Polanski just to get. I don't think I see.
What do you want to ask? What do you want to ask? Let's see if we can get a question to him.
I think I want to understand him as a person. I don't
what does that
see.
Mean? He can't do that with 60 million people.
No, true. I just don't think that. I don't think I'm seeing the real him. That's what I think. I think it's almost performative. And the problem for me is
how do you want him to be different?
I don't want him to be different. If that is him, then that is him. That's fine. For me, and I don't know what it's going to take, it just feels same with Farage. I think everybody in that sphere is a little bit performative to the point where, does he actually really think that? Does he actually really truly believe that? Is that one of his actual values? And then I don't know whether it's because I have got a massive distrust for politicians.
I'm even going to ask you, just sort of like devil's advocate, does it matter? And the reason I say that is because, like, we've discussed a lot of things today. Some of the things I don't even. I mean, I haven't researched. You mentioned some things that I don't have any knowledge of. Running a political party, there are hundreds of things that you have to have a view on, that you have to be on top of, and you can't be. It's impossible.
No, it's a machine.
So you're there to present being that safe pair of hands that has knowledge on everything. And sometimes you just have to go to other experts and go, okay, well, they're leading on this, and they're the ones that say, and I'm just going to, and that's what I do in terms of having faith in terms of the Green Party. I know a lot of people now in the Green Party who I think are very sensible human beings.
I've spoken one of my friends, Arfan. He like I said, he's a good friend of mine, and I would never have put him down as a Green Party, not as a Green Party member or supporter, but definitely not as a Green Party chairman. And I think
so. It's not all about this one guy. So I think So I think that you're making it about one person, and you don't have to.
No, I honestly, like I said right at the beginning, in terms of Green Party policies, there's more I agree with than disagree with, and there's a hell of a lot that I agree with. I think sometimes the problem with we've seen it. I've seen it too many times. I've been through Labour governments and Conservative governments all my life. Nothing's ever fucking changed. Ever. Nothing's changed. It's exactly the same. And I suppose the problem...
The thing I hear more than anything else on the street is they all piss from the same pots.
Fucking damn right they do. Every single one of them. They all... there's a really good comedy sketch with Lee Mack, if you've ever watched it. And it's when they go into the urinals and he comes in with a fag. And there's a guy there, a guy on the right, guy on the left, and he walks in the middle. he's like, he puts a fag in his mouth. He's got a light. He's like, yeah, hold this. So he goes down and holds his cock, and then he holds the other one. It's a really funny skit, but that is almost like a microcosm of what I believe happens in Westminster. Is they're all fucking holding each other's cocks, and that is, that's the way they work.
What a nice way! What a nice place to leave it. But I will just say, when you've articulated what it is you want to know about Zach Polanski that is making you question his authenticity or whatever it is that you're not sure about, try and articulate it and let me know.
Yeah, I think it's his motives. I suppose I want to understand his motives a little more, and I've done as much research as I possibly can do and watched as many interviews as I can possibly watch.
I'll say it in
and I'm not getting anything more.
I'll say it in one simple answer: redressing the inequality gap. It's that simple. It's basically making it a fairer society. It's not. It doesn't have to be that complicated.
Well, hopefully, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We're going to find out one way or another, aren't we, Adam? So one way or another, we're going to find out.
But it's quite exciting,
we'll have to live.
It?
It's like I said. For any young voters that this is going to be maybe the first election that they vote in because they might not have been engaged previously. This is fucking people don't quite understand how monumental this election is going to be in terms of the fact that the two parties that are going to be vying for the top job, it's just unheard of. They're usurping somebody that's been in one of the top positions for the last 500 fucking years.
Yeah, well, there's a good chance of it, isn't there? Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, ultimately, I can't see anybody from Labour or Conservatives getting anywhere near number 10 next time, and I think it's a two-horse race between Reform and the Greens. But we'll find out.
It's going to be it's going to be a fun ride. That is, if the world still exists and we haven't all died because of World War III. But that's another conversation.
True, there is that. We didn't even touch on that at all.
No, we didn't touch on that.
Which, to be fair, it's good because I haven't prepared for. Because I haven't even looked at Iran or anything for the past few weeks. Because I just honestly, it's just bonkers. But thank you very, very much, Adam. If people want to find you, follow you, see your stuff, where do they go?
They go. Well, I'm on Instagram, so it's Adam Brichto. It's a very.
I'll tag you in as well. Yeah. So
obviously, it's not the easiest name to spell. So yeah, and if you see a guy,
see a guy in a Union Jack suit wandering about, go and have a chat.
It's probably me, or it's a Reform nutcase. So it's fingers crossed you'll get lucky and it'll be me, unless you're a Reform nutcase and I'll be your worst nightmare.
Right. Well, thank you very, very much. Thank you for listening, everybody. Catch you next time.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.